Grab your hammers, everybody, because we're breaking onto Beyond the Borderline with your hosts, Connor, Cam, Ryan, and Phil.
Oh, you switched it up a little bit there.
Nice. These are creative, man. Not bad.
Thank you for the intro. Thank you.
Yep.
I try.
Okay. So today's episode, I like these little two-parters that we're kind of doing, but today's episode is a continuation of a last episode, which in which we talked about social media, the pros and cons of social media, and then it got on to kind of a larger discussion about technology in general, and the rapid acceleration in the just in our technological capabilities, and if and when we might reach a breaking point. It was Ryan or Phil or somebody brought up the metaverse.
Yeah, Phil did.
Phil brought up the metaverse, and so we kind of encountered the idea of, when do people start saying maybe technology has encroached too far into our lives? At what point do we say, if ever, do we say, look, this is really taking away from who we are as human beings? So this could go a variety of ways, but we just want to open up the floor.
I want to take it. I want to take it one way. I just thought of this.
He's eager. He's really eager. Okay, go ahead.
What happens? So maybe not what happens, but I think technology will get to a point where it's considered too far when technology is integrated into us in a physical sense. And what I mean is it's integrated and it becomes absolutely integral to our physiology. Like we can't survive without some sort of technology, foreign technology existing in our body, whether that be some sort of high-tech pacemaker, or we have like completely synthetic organs, or the lens on our eyes is now like that's how we access all of our social media. Like you've probably seen this in movies. Like the first thing that's coming to mind is the remake of Total Recall. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie. It's a terrible remake, but the technology that they show in it is pretty cool. And yeah, I'm just thinking, I think when we reach that point, when we reach that cyberpunk level of technology, I think that in a lot of ways would be, for lack of a better word, gross.
Well, are we? I think maybe we're already there then, Ryan, because name me one person younger than 20 years, like younger than 30 years old, that doesn't own a phone.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
Right, but that's not integrated into your physiology, though, right? Like it's not like in your body. Like
it's close, though. It's real close.
It's as close as it can be
against your leg at all times. As close as it can be without. It's in your hand.
It's as close as it can be without it actually being in your body, right? But what I'm talking about.
What about Neuralink then?
I just wanted to bring something up.
What I'm talking about is like you have like, let's say you had like a microchip or some sort of processor in your brain that lets you access the internet, and you can view what you're accessing through the lens on your eyes. That's scary.
As Cam said, Neuralink. Phil, what were you going to say?
Okay, let me know if you've ever felt this situation happen to you, where you don't have your phone on you, but you feel it vibrate.
Oh, all the time.
How
is that not already baked in your physiology?
Yeah, it's like you've developed a sixth sense for technology.
Yeah, it's either it's in my pocket and I feel it vibrate even though it didn't, or I don't even have it and I feel it vibrate. I'm like,
the most common example for me is like I'm just lying in bed watching TV, and then I might feel like I hear like a or like some sort of vibration. I look over at my phone, no notifications.
Nothing.
What the fuck?
I keep thinking I'm getting phone calls recently, but I don't have it on ringer. I just have it on vibrate, and the problem is when I get actual phone calls, I don't hear that, but I hear these phantom phone calls, and then I'm like, wait, nothing's happening.
Oh, we're having phantom pain for technology. This is how it starts.
Right? It's bad, dude. It's like a limb.
Here's the thing, though, Ryan. You got to I think you have to find that point before it gets too far, because as Cam said, like Neuralink's coming and the metaverse and stuff like that, and like once these things arrive, it's just like it's like a train. Like you're not going to be able to stop it, and people are like, "Ooh, this is new technology, this is cool, let's test it out," and then it gains more and more of a following, more and more people
I agree.
are into it. And then at some point people are going to look back and be like, wow, we should have stopped it there, but we didn't. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue down the rabbit hole. Let's continue You know, like the metaverse now is a
Yeah,
microchip.
it just goes to show that we as human beings don't know our own limitations, or we do know our own limitations, but we're so stubborn to push past them.
Yeah, like I love Elon Musk, but I'm a little confused at how he's spoken out a lot about the dangers of AI, you know, and the possible malicious tendencies that a true AI might have towards humanity. But at the same time, like Neuralink is one of his biggest things, and I'm like, you're flirting with that territory though, you know, like at the same time that you're saying, look, we really have to be careful, you're still flirting with that like cyborg territory that I don't know where it's going to go. And I'm not saying we should stop innovating per se, but I don't know, man. It's I really don't want us to be caught in 50 years while we're still alive, hopefully, and being like, wow, like we knew it was coming, man. With smartphones, we knew it was coming, but we turned a blind eye for the sake of the now. I don't know.
So
Well, actually,
I
Phil,
was
can you speak to that a little bit? Because you know a lot about Elon,
On
and I just
what
wonder what you think
specifically?
about Neuralink. Like I'm not an expert on the technology, but just the idea of it. Just what do you think about if that is maybe wandering into or flirting with semi-dangerous territory, or what?
Mhm. So the basic principle of Neuralink initially is to interface with the brain to either regain function in people who've
limbs.
experienced paralysis
Mhm,
and
mhm.
also neurological diseases and such. And
Like
do I think,
Alzheimer's.
yeah,
Okay.
do I think that it can do much more beyond that? I think so. And
absolutely.
Elon Musk has alluded to you being able to communicate without words, which
Well,
is
wasn't the
We're
test
telepathically communicating now.
wasn't the
That's right.
test with the monkey and the Pong game? Like,
Yes.
so it was interacting with an object, or well, a computer,
Oh,
right?
okay. So I can break down that entire experiment. So they had a monkey play a game called Pong, where you basically, like, on either side, the left and the right side, you have for those that are listening, it's like the oldest game ever. You basically have to, I guess, reflect the ball back to the other side and like
Yeah.
move on the
Digital ping
y-axis.
pong.
It's
is-
digital
Digital
table
ping pong.
tennis. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they had a monkey, and the way that the monkey would interact with the game was via a joystick and somehow a reward mechanism being a banana smoothie. And then
Yum.
the reason, so while this was happening, the Neuralink was implanted in the brain, and it was downloading all of this information. So then when it came to the Neuralink to function on its own, the monkey used the joystick, but it had in fact been unplugged. So the monkey was actually using its brain waves to control the game,
Wow.
which is
Yeah.
absolutely insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's
Like-
like if people don't believe it, like just watch the video. I mean, it's out
Just
there.
watch the video. Yep.
I
So
gotta go watch that. That sounds sick.
It's
Yeah, so-
wild, bro.
he literally played the game telepathically
So
without
you
the
know,
joystick.
while we're talking about this, we're talking about all the
Crazy.
dread and the fear surrounding all this, but at the same time, you can't help but feel that this also feels really awesome and cool.
But
'Cause
what
I'm
if
a
they can be
huge-
hacked, bro? What if they can be
No,
hacked? and
hold on,
someone
let me
can
Yeah,
just
so
shut you
here's-
down.
here's the
I'm
thing.
like a really big sci-fi nerd, right? More so than like I love fantasy, but more so than fantasy. So seeing all of these, you know, especially the way Elon Musk is taking technology, all these things that I've seen in my favorite science fiction movies starting to become a reality, it's just that is polarizing in a really positive way for me at the same time.
As Kim said, like it could be hacked. Like, I mean, I work in the cybersecurity realm, and the first thing they tell you is like, if there's a
Don't put chips in your
microchip,
brain.
it can be hacked. So my question is like, what happens if someone knows that you have the the link or whatever it's called, and like someone can hack into your brain and just literally control you. Like if all
Yeah.
these people have Neuralinks, like or
Yeah.
half the population have Neuralinks, they could easily be controlled. It just takes one person to hack to
You're
figure out how
giving
to hack into
you're
it.
giving
and
Anonymous a lot of opportunity.
Well, you know
there.
what? I guess the pushback that I've give to that argument is that for right now, anyway, the Neuralink would only target a specific part of the brain. So it would not
Right.
be able to control. Well, if it's in the part of the brain that would control X, Y, and Z, then potentially yes. But if like you're not going to see anybody like controlling anyone's motion for a long time.
Yeah, it's not gonna be like
Well,
salts.
They would
like
probably
sleeper
have to develop
agents.
some. They'd probably have to develop some sort of controller on it so that the microchip that's in your brain can only be operated by internal brainwave sources. So any external influences that are trying to control your brain or control your Neuralink, it wouldn't have that functionality. And then of course they could probably develop a technology that makes the Neuralink think that it's coming from the internal source of your brain. But that's just where my mind takes it to the initial step of preventing that.
yeah, but yeah, there's a thing is like you can just create these fake like these viruses that act or that seem to be natural, like brain waves or whatever, that actually aren't. And then as you said, Phil, like part of the Neuralink is to help people who are paralyzed. Well, what does that affect? That affects movement, like to your limbs.
Okay, so
So then
here's the
somebody can hack in and start moving your hands and
And you know
legs.
what? I want to
in your
bring something up
brain.
real quick. I'll let you finish after the so-called virus for this Neuralink. What if that's our world's version of Soma?
yeah.
Wait, what do you
What's
mean?
Soma?
Sorry,
Like this drug.
I explained it last episode, bud.
Yeah.
That shit from
Oh.
Brave New World.
Oh, true. Yeah.
So
So-
basically,
well,
this
yeah.
drug that controls these people, because I think
Right.
Neuralink is going to become kind of like a household appliance. Like
Mhm.
it's, like in the same way that a phone is right now. So you could have this virus uploaded to this, and like this malware, but it would kind of act like the Soma.
Right.
Okay,
Well, so in that
here's
sense-
an
Go ahead.
go ahead, Cam. I'm going to take it to a different topic on technology. So
Okay. Well, I just want to ask then, is it possible that the snowball is just rolling and like just by virtue of us as humans always seeking to progress and stuff, and even the fact that we've gone so far already with like the fact that our societies are completely dependent upon the internet, like do you think it's already too far? Because I think, I don't know, like at what point do we say like, look, this isn't really going to work? Because think about it, if the internet goes down, for example, think of the chaos that will ensue. There is no force on earth that will be able to control the chaos that will ensue. No government. Well, maybe the Chinese government, but they do some drastic measures and we don't want to copy them. But anyway,
So-
like, I don't know if you guys want to speak to that.
So-
Or
the other aspect of technology I wanted to get into that's also really terrifying, that's starting to make some headway, is synthetic voice. And what I mean by synthetic voice is to give a specific example, there's this programmer that has developed a program, an app that allows you, and he developed this for the purposes of creating modifications for games. It allows you to basically scan the voice of any voice actor that's performed a specific character in any video game. And then you can take that voice and then synthesize your own lines and then have those lines be spoken word for word in the voice of that character. And you
So
might
it's like
think,
right.
DeepFake for audio.
yeah, and you might think, oh, it sounds incredibly robotic. And it's like, hi, I am Ryan. But no, it's actually like, it's coming along really, really well. Like I'll link it to you guys.
Dude, deepfake's
like
scary, man.
For example, like, so it's at the point now that it actually sounds pretty authentic. And if you were to use it to like trump up voice recognition software, it would work. Yes, it still sounds robotic at times, and that's because they can only do so much on inflection, and they can't they can't mask emotion in the way you convey tone yet.
Yeah.
The technology isn't, it's getting there, but it's not perfect. But I was listening to it today and I was like, okay, this is really terrifying. Like you could do some pretty nefarious things with this. You could make people think that you're saying things that aren't actually being said, right? Like this could be in the most terrifying and horrible ways.
Yeah, like I love
makes it-
DeepFake Luke Skywalker in the Mandalorian and stuff.
Yeah.
But like that's great and everything. But you could also use, like, in 10 years, it'll probably be advanced enough to perfectly replicate someone on video saying and or doing something. And that could ruin people. Dude, with the way cancel culture is, like, people's lives will get ruined by deepfakes, guaranteed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're gonna have to work overtime to prove that, no, I wasn't there, I didn't say that. You know,
even on top of that, like social, like these like scam artists and stuff like that that'll call you and be like, yeah, like I'm Prince in whatever in Morocco and I just lost $80. If you give me $100 today, I'll give you 10,000 tomorrow. Like now they can take, if they're good enough, they can take your grandma's voice or your mom's voice and be like,
oh yeah.
hey honey, I just lost this much money, like I need a little bit of a loan, I'll pay you back like whenever, like next
Hopefully
month.
hopefully you have caller ID and you're like, well, grandma, why are you calling from like Mauritania?
Yeah. But then you could, like, these, especially, like, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but if you call from like because you can call from the internet, if you call from the
Yeah,
internet,
true.
you can put the name on the top, like on the screen, so instead of saying a number, it could just be like mom or something like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So
we have burner phones for work, or an app for work, Ryan and I,
Yeah,
that
it's
literally we
fucking
have
Yeah.
fake phone
sketchy.
number.
You know
Yeah.
what? I think that this is the exact catalyst needed to make the metaverse work.
What do you
And
mean?
what I mean by that is that you will become so fearful and so petrified that your character would be assassinated, that you have to escape in this world,
Mhm.
into this utopia.
Sure.
Okay, but how do
Right.
you afford life if you live in the metaverse? How do you afford to, like, what do you do to pay for food? What do you do to pay for
Oh, then that's where
like,
NFTs and
Well,
cryptos come
yeah,
in.
exactly.
That's where
You know what?
NFTs and
It
cryptos come in.
becomes
Digital
the reason.
currency.
Okay, so basically, think of it like, was it Wally, where they have like those floating chairs or something?
Yeah.
So
Fucking movie.
basically,
That fucking movie just makes me
just think
sad.
of society as like a sewer system, right? Like they each have their little suites, and then they have, the water goes one way, the excrement goes another, like kind of have like people on these tubes and like in this capsule, in this like time capsule. Like
so it's
I
gonna
think
be like the Matrix?
it's not outside.
Yeah,
the
that's
realm
what
of
I've been saying.
possibility.
We're definitely going to reach a point where we live in the Matrix,
And that's why
Yeah.
that's
or-
why I'm not
or we already live in it.
I'm not necessarily concerned about food, money, XYZ, because in the metaverse, it's
Yeah,
irrelevant.
they're developing a
Money
platform.
will be irrelevant
Yeah.
because it'll just be made
Right.
up.
Yeah.
Food, what's food? What if we reach a point where our consciousness is uploaded over the internet? You don't need food.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, there
when
was
you're
this
eating, because
other.
when you're eating food in the metaverse, they'll just send those signals to your brain of what that food would taste like. So you're essentially just eating, right? And then
But
your
you need
actual
food.
your actual physical form in the real space would then just be supplemented by base proteins and carbohydrates, right? Which could be fed to you through intravenous. So you could be constantly in.
Yeah, well, I read a
Metaverse.
book called The Reality Bug. That was the premise essentially. There was this other dimension called Velox, and the main character from Earth like traveled there, and basically he comes to like, he goes through like the interdimensional portal, ends up in Velox, and then there's just this ruined city all around, like a megalopolis, like just a ginormous city, huge towering skyscrapers. But it's all just abandoned, shattered glass everywhere, garbage blowing down the streets. And it's like, what the hell happened here? And then in the distance, in the center of the city, there's this gargantuan jet black pyramid looming above everything else. And so he wanders through the city, and gets to the pyramid, gets inside eventually, and it's just layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, hundreds and thousands of people just lying on a bed, hooked up to a machine, hooked up to intravenous so that they can survive with fluids and vitamins and electrolytes and whatnot. But just hooked into machines, and they're all just living their own little realities. And so now obviously the author didn't invent the idea. Like, this is an idea that we've been talking about. But like, after I read that book, I was like 10 when I read it. I was like, holy shit, dude, like that's a real possibility. So whenever we talk about this, I always think of that book, because I'm like, man, like what that could totally happen. We could totally, like, draw up a social contract between ourselves that says, yeah, we're all just going to disappear into our own universes. And then I guess there'd be a governing body that regulates us. But what Phil was saying is that if our consciousnesses get uploaded, then we don't even need food at all,
Dude, this is the thing. Like, I watched the movie. I think it was Jason Bateman on Netflix. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but essentially, the premise of it was like this guy. He starts in like what you would like quote unquote say is like the real world, and he loses his job. So he's like, "Oh, what the fuck?" And then he goes to a bar, and he meets like his like other world, like we'll call it real world and other world, and he meets his other world wife. And his wife's like, "Hey, like you just lost your job. Nothing in this world matters. You can do whatever you want." He's like, "No, I have responsibilities. Like I have a kid. I have 2 kids that I need to look after. Da da da." And she's like, "No, no, no. This is a made up world that doesn't matter." So then they go to her, like she lives like under a bridge. They're homeless, and she's like, "Shoot up these drugs with me. Nothing really matters." And he's like, "No, no, no, I have responsibilities." And then she like shoots somebody, kills them, and she's like, "It doesn't matter in this world. This is not the real world." And then she gives him these drugs, and then everything's euphoric and feels good or whatever. And so he starts believing in her, believing what she's saying. And then this guy's daughter ends up finding her, and he's like, or finding him, sorry, and she's like, like you need to snap out of it. You have responsibilities and stuff like that. He's like, no, 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 I'm living the perfect life right now. And then he ends up finding like his other world wife, and she's like, no, like let me show you the real world, or the other world, sorry. And so they snap out, as you said, like they wake up in a room attached to like IV drips and like whatever to keep them like centered. And then it's like this euphoric place, like everyone, they've gone past like needing to live like normal lives. Like everyone is super nice houses, it's like everyone's rich, nobody has to worry about working. It's just like a utopia. And then his daughter from the real world starts like phasing into this like outer world, and then he doesn't know which one's the real world, if like utopia is the real world, or if
right.
and so, but the whole thing was like, in this perfect world, you don't know those good times and those bad times. Everything is just so mundane, because there's no bad times that make you appreciate the good. So it's like, in these metaverses, Phil, when are you gonna have good times and bad times and be able to realize, like the human aspect of things? You need pain and suffering in order to be good. Like if everything is
but not
good,
all
you take
people
that
know
for
that,
granted.
like it's not self-evident to a lot of people. Like what that story you told speaks to the dichotomy between, and I don't want to dive too deep into this, but I just want to touch on it, the dichotomy between communism and capitalism, for example, those two fundamental worldviews of utopian progression juxtaposed with down-to-earth responsibilities, which shape our political and social and economic realities. And so it kind of like, that story is kind of what you're saying. Like a lot of people are drawn to the idea of communism or socialism or whatever, or the utopia, because why wouldn't you be, like, so it's not self-evident that, look, we can recognize that, yeah, we need to go through hard times to appreciate the good. We need to take on responsibility in order to fulfill ourselves. We need to be there for people, our family and stuff, and we need to make something of ourselves. But not everyone will choose that, right? Like it's so attractive, the idea of utopia. They're selling people bliss, permanent bliss. Who's gonna choose if you had a, if you had a split second, who's gonna choose between suffering, that which life truly is, or bliss 100%, so a lot of people will go down that route, man, which is why I think
But
we're going to
does-
split into factions of
But when you
Of
like,
But does that bliss eventually lose its luster?
yeah, but
yeah,
maybe
so
not
that's
for
what,
some
that's what I was
people,
gonna
man,
say.
not
I'm
for
sorry,
some people.
sorry to interrupt or whatever, but like, yeah, it's like if your life is always good and you're always happy, like eventually you can be content with that for so long, but eventually you're like I want that feeling when I got to that state of like being happy and like being good, like eventually that happiness like plateaus, and the dopamine and endorphins in your brain from reaching that, whatever that thing that made you happy was, eventually that fades away. So you're like, okay, how do I get to that level again? You need to go to the next step, but you can't do that if everything is just on a flat line.
Well,
Mhm.
and yeah, you would hope, yeah. I
Do
certainly
you-
think that I would react that way, but
Mhm.
you can't say so for everyone necessarily.
Speaking solely on the metaverse, like we kind of have to, once we get to the point of a metaverse, good and evil, they actually have no real weight because the metaverse is entirely antithetical to the human condition,
Exactly.
meaning that
Mhm.
when you enter this realm,
There's no rules.
good and evil go away,
Yep.
suffering goes away,
Yeah.
and give it a decade in this state, it's euphoria is just part of your life, like continuously until the end of time. So I feel like the second like you shut off from it, your body would literally shut down and die.
We're all just
Like,
gonna become a
Yeah,
bunch of.
yeah.
You
We're
would
all just
be-
gonna be.
it-
Eventually, we're all
this
just gonna,
utopia will be what sustains you, and
Right,
you
right,
will
eventually-
right.
no longer be able to deal with the realities of life, and you would die.
You have withdrawals.
What
You
like what is
would die.
that utopia, like eventually that's not going to be enough, because if you lived in that state for like obviously like the first, I'll say like first couple of years will be awesome, like you'll be exploring, doing whatever, having the time of your life, but then eventually like you get to a point where you've done everything you can there, and you're like, okay, I need something more, I need something better, like where do you go from there?
Some
'Cause
people
it's
though
not
are just
even
not
like-
like that though.
So
What do you
eventually,
mean
I
by
feel-
that, Connor?
Wait, I think Ryan's been trying to talk
Well,
for
it's like
Oh.
No, it's all good. Go ahead,
the
Connor.
definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So if you're doing the same thing every single day in the metaverse or whatever, and you're living happy,
That's
like-
not. No, it's not the same thing, Connor.
Well,
But
but you're
well,
not
yeah, it is.
necessarily living happily, like, or sorry, you're not necessarily doing the same thing every day. But I think, look, I think you're right, Connor, for the most part. And I would like to think that people, were they in that situation, would eventually be like, this is so fake. This is not worth it. Like, this is not living. But I hesitate to conclude that all people would choose that. Some people would just become addicted to it, and unfortunately some people become lost to addiction. Like,
Oh,
some
I
people
know.
pull themselves
So
out, and it's really hard, but people
I-
do it, but other people just get consumed, man.
I definitely don't have an addictive personality, but I know for a fact that if I could exist in the metaverse and play a video game much in the same way that, being in the Matrix, you for all intents and purposes, you feel that it is real. I know
Yeah.
I would become completely lost. So like if there was a video game in the metaverse where my consciousness was completely in the
You
digital
could be the
realm
Witcher,
and,
man.
and I could be a Jedi or I could be the Witcher, I would not want to leave.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. You
And
could
that's
be a
not to
video
say-
game character.
And that's not to say that I don't love my life. I love my life for all the good and bad, but I can't. But at the end of the day, if I could be a fucking Jedi, I'm gonna go be a Jedi.
Mhm.
yo, Ryan, so what happens when you beat the game?
But that's the thing; they wouldn't design a game around it being beatable. They would design it around being a sandbox. It's a continuous existence.
But so you would need suffering then. though.
for all intents and purposes,
Eventually-
you
but
live in a
ev-
world. You live in the world of Star Wars. So conflicts arise just like they would in our natural day. You're living in a space where You're living in a completely different world. It's no longer a video game at that point.
So are you saying then that, so there, I think there's two ways that this could go, is like there could be technology where each individual decides what their virtual world is on a momentary and daily basis.
Right.
Or an external entity decides. So like, I think that'd be very different. Like if it's an external entity, say designing a game, an infinite game for you, and you play through it and you interact with the world as if it's a real world, I think that's has a different connotation than like people shaping their own virtual reality, you know, because yeah, I mean, it's tempting to hop on and like play literally like a virtual world where all things are
That
real.
would be so awesome.
But then if it's a real simulation of a virtual world, it would have to include obstacles to overcome.
Oh,
right?
of course. Yes, I would
But
fully
so-
expect that.
So like if people are controlling their own virtual realities though, absent kind of governing rules or obstacles or overarching story, I just fear that they will choose, you know, well, the bliss that we were talking about, and just choose to do away with the hardships. And maybe it's a minority of people, you know, but even if it's
So I don't know if you guys are big anime lovers, but I would recommend you guys watch a show called just the first season. You can watch more of it if you like it, but just watch the show Sword Art Online. It's literally everything we're talking about existing in a digital metaverse where you play like your consciousness goes into the game and you're playing the game.
Mhm.
And this creator of the game is the first like pioneer of creating something like this. And he traps all of his players in the game. And he says, if you die in the game, you die for real.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that kind of like Ready Player One?
Yeah, but in Ready Player One, if you die in the game, you don't die for real.
Yeah, and like Tron too, kind of, eh?
Yeah, but like what? Actually, no.
Again-
If you die in Tron, if you're a user and you die in Tron, you die for real. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept.
Well, my whole fear about like this virtual reality stuff is that it gets so compelling to the point where it's indiscernible from reality.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What I mean by like kind of stripping the humanity away from humans is that they no longer have the choice to leave.
Right.
They're in it. Your memory's wiped from where you were previously. Like
Oh wow.
Gonzo.
Yeah,
I think
that's my whole thing.
I think a minority of people are gonna go for that, but it may not be. It may be a choice. It may be a symptom of the system. It's probably we may not have the willpower to strip away from that.
That might be an
Yeah.
interesting way of achieving immortality. Like, think about it. Think about we live in a world where
We're
you're
not meant
allowed
to be.
Hold on. You live in a world where you're not allowed to interact with this technology until you reach a point of terminal illness. And then when you reach that point, they upload your consciousness into this metaverse, for lack of a better word. And then you get to live the rest of your existence in this digital space however you want.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
think
if
it
I'd
might
want
come
that.
to pass. Like with the whole, like, I was just thinking about this. Like, so there's a certain stream of radical, you know, environmentalist kind of ideology that, that basically has as their primary axiom that human beings are more or less a cancer to the earth, right? Like we've heard that before, right? Like we do more harm than good on the earth. We're like a parasite, you know, leeching off of the earth and killing all life on it and destroying it, destroying the climate, destroying the environment. And so that's a very powerful ideology that drives a lot. If you dive into a lot of political issues, you'll find that behind a lot of people's thinking. And I just saw this. I'm just kind of worried that like that kind of ideology can easily lead to, well, everyone should just be in the metaverse, you know, in order to save our planet, you know, and preserve it, because
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
well, right, because human beings allegedly are so cancerous to the earth, that everyone should be uploaded into the metaverse, kill our physical bodies, upload our consciousnesses, and then we can just live out in there. And then that goes into a whole question of like, what is reality? Like, is it just what we perceive? like, is this world actually, does it mean anything if we can just upload ourselves into a virtual world, you know?
Maybe we're already there.
But
So
that's dangerous,
so
man,
that's
because
so
we
that's
don't.
why
Virtual
it's more likely in a lot of ways that we already live in that digital space, and that not that God and religion doesn't exist the way we think it does.
I don't know, man, because I think there's something fundamental about the fact that, like, I don't think, look, I'm going to speak about God, but I'm going to speak about it as an abstract concept. And what I want to say is that there might just be a fundamental rule of the universe or of life, you know, in just a very basic sense, that there's something innate to humans that we want to progress at all times, right? But I think we're going to be a parabola, and we're going to constantly be approaching trying to become gods, you know, like we're going to fuck with everything. We're going to start fucking with babies' genomes and creating, you know, whatever your baby wants, you can design it however you want.
Well, that's already
You
a
know,
thing.
cloning.
You can
Yeah,
genetically
but hold
create
on,
your kid however you want.
Yeah, but all this stuff, metaverse, and we're basically trying to become gods. And I think that, and this is getting real metaphysical, but I think that it might be a rule of the universe that, like, that will never be allowed to happen, you know, just like a parabola through the laws of mathematics can never actually reach that point. It can only approach it. I think we're going to destroy ourselves in the quest to try to become gods, you know, because it's just not possible, because we are mortal beings, you know. I don't know, it's just an idea.
I don't know if I
think we
necessarily
gotta
agree with
pause
that,
that. I think-
because yeah, you know, that's a good spot to end it.
I think
Yeah.
we should just save that, like that's the end of part one, because I think
There's
we got
more.
I
think
can
we
keep
got a
talking.
lot
This is a
more-
great topic.
I think we got a lot more to talk about. So
Okay.
please, everybody, stay tuned, because I guess next week we're going to be coming out with a part 2 to this one, because I think a
The
lot of us still have a
parabola
lot to
theory,
say.
Cam's parabola theory.
Yeah,
That's the next episode.
Exactly. You guys, this is the birthplace of Cam's theory. So
Yeah.
you guys are welcome for that.
Stay
And
tuned for my
stay
book
tuned
in
next week.
46 years.
There you go. And just gonna let you guys know, we're gonna run a little bit of a promo as a thank you for those people that do interact with us. If you, number one, if you're already following us, we love you. If you're not following us, follow us, like, share, and tag us in that share. We have a little bit of a prize coming to one lucky winner who likes, follows, and shares with us on Instagram. So
And comments. Yeah,
and comment.
Instagram link is in the bio, guys. So yeah.
Yeah.
When this
We'll
episode
announce-
comes out,
we'll-
like, share, comment, and we'll announce
We'll
the
an-
winner the
yeah,
next
we'll
episode, or the next
right.
Friday, I guess.
Yeah, well, the next
yeah.
Friday we'll announce the winner.
Yeah, but yeah, look on Instagram for the details. They'll be there.
Should we tell
Yeah.
them what they're winning?
I'll mention it on Instagram. It'll be a gift card of
Yeah.
some kind.
And but you guys got to remember, the comment, you have to comment 2 friends.
Yeah, tag people.
Tag
it,
2
tag it,
people
tag it. Okay,
in the comments, and
we don't have much time
that's
left.
just right there.
We have
All
like
right,
no
everyone.
time left.
Remember, take care, brush your hair. Have a great weekend.